We had Ruth's story last week, and now we have Hannah's story, and they read like historical fiction. They're true, of course, they're nonfiction, but Murray reads all these historical fiction stories and wants me to read them, and I read old, dead English guys talking about the Bible, mainly. So I never get to those, but I can see why they're fascinating, and she tells me this story. You take some pivotal point in history where there's a war or, civil war. That's what's going on here in this story. What's the name of this play? Anybody? Of Mr. what? Fig. The Adventures of Mr. Fig. See, we've got Mr. Fig. We got his little personal story inside this bigger story, inside this big cultural shift, this transition. And that's what you see in historical fiction. It could be a war or some kind of renaissance or revolution, something where the culture takes this huge shift. But then instead of just this broad view, we go in and we get this personal story. We get this one person's life story in the context of that big one. And usually what happens is the personal story has a lesson, learns a lesson that everyone should learn, that the big story should really learn. And so it is really fascinating, and that's what we've done with Ruth and now with Hannah. And so let me give you the big story. It's pretty close to the same time as Ruth. And what's happening with Israel is that they're in the Promised Land now, and they've been for several generations. They're no longer the new kids on the block. No song reference intended there, please. No healing to be found in those songs. And what's happened is they're not really scary anymore. When they came out of Egypt, there was all these stories of true events of what they had done to the great kingdom of Egypt, and how God brought them in, and then the story of Jericho. And so God had put this holy fear upon everyone around them and told them, look, slowly and eventually take over this entire land, and they will yield to you. They're scared of you. Well, Israel didn't exactly do that. They didn't exactly follow those commands, and so there were still many neighbors left. And then that kind of fear had dwindled. Those stories had, that's my great-great-grandfather used to tell that story, but is that real? Did that really happen? And so that has kind of faded. So the Philistines start coming in as a real rival for the Israelites, and no one was scared of them anymore. Was what the deal was. And then even the stories seemed to be fading within Israel because they were no longer trying to be what God called them to be holy, to be different than their neighbors, to be separate, set apart, to be a kingdom of priests. And that's what God wanted them to be, but they were kind of forgetting that. And the evidence of that is they wanted to be like their neighbors in one very big way. They wanted a what? They wanted a king. Yeah, we want to be like everybody else. We want a king. Every other kingdom has a king. Why don't we have a king? And so that's what's happening in the big picture with Israel. And so we go down to the little story, and that's the story of Hannah. And you read the story this week, didn't you, Michael? Where are you? Yeah, okay. All right, yes, thank you, Dave. Yeah, I'm asking everybody, our friends from Tennessee are here. Everyone's going to read along, and so there's a reader out on the lobby, and it's also on our website. And so I'm asking everyone, and Michael's enforcing that everyone read along. And you can be doing another Bible study or another reader. That's fine. You can do that too. But I'm asking you to do this. And so we all did it. We all read the personal story of Hannah. And so I'll just review a little bit just to remind you. But she's married to a man who also has another wife. And, of course, that doesn't work at all, does it? That doesn't, it's just a reminder for us that this doesn't work. These women could not get along. I mean, it's a big surprise there, right? They call each other rivals. My rival. And so the husband loves Hannah more, but it's the other woman who's producing the children. So it's like the Leah and Rachel thing. And Hannah is distraught over the fact that she's not the one, that her rival is the one that's producing the sons for the family line and having the children, and she's absolutely distraught about it. And her husband comes to her and says, "Look, I love you. Aren't I better than 10 sons?" And she says, No, you're not. Yeah. Good try, buddy, but that didn't work. And so she's stuck. She's stuck in despair. She needs healing. And the problem, and this is we all have this problem. Her problem is what is she doing wrong here? She's comparing herself with the other woman. We compare ourselves to other people. It's actually, I guess, the correct term would be contrasting, because when you're comparing, you're looking at similarities. When you're contrasting, you're looking at differences, and that's what we do. We look at other people. We don't look for the similarities. We look for the differences. We say, Ray is driving a much nicer car than me. I don't like this. That's what we're doing. And we have it from day one. It's part of our human nature. As you know, you can see two kids, and when we're a baby, and then the other kid has the toy, and we lose our mind. I mean, it's just part of our human nature, and so we rarely really grow out of this, do we? We see another, we're big kids now. We see some other kid with a toy, and we lose our mind. This psychosis, we rarely mature out of this. And we keep thinking everybody else around us is more lucky and more blessed. And it's a great way to go straight into depression. If you want to be depressed, this is the way to do it. Continually compare yourself to everyone else. This is an intentional reference to songs here. There's Black Crows is one of my old favorites. Where are you at, Tony? Yeah, Tony. Yeah, Black Crows. Remember, we went and saw them at the House of Blues. Yeah, they rocked it, didn't they? Those guys are good. They know how to sing the blues. And they have this song, Sister Luck. And they say, Sister Luck is calling out somebody else's name. See, this is a blues song. There's one of the really good lines is feeling second fiddle to a dead man is one of the lines in that. Now that is some blues right there. I mean, feeling second fiddle to a dead man. I mean, and that's what we're doing. We're comparing ourselves to other people, and that'll put you. Yeah, if you want to write the blues, go ahead. That's what you're going to do. You got to pay your dues to write the blues, right? So who's that? Ringo. That's right. Thank you, Dave. So what can we do about it? How can we be healed of this thing that's so common to our human nature and just continually brings us down? What can we do? And so that's what this is what we can take from practical means for our own life. This is how we can apply this. What I see in Hannah's story and her song is she does 4 things. She does 4 things to get over this. And the first one is she cries out to the Lord. This is 1 Samuel 1:10. In the bitterness of her soul, the bitterness of her soul. That's the blues right there. She prayed to Yahweh with many tears. She just let it out. This is a verse that I have memorized that you may want to learn as well. And this is the next slide, 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety upon him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. Hold on to that one. That was one of my grandmother's verses, because she has this Dafo anxiety thing, where you just worry, 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 worry. And so how do you handle that? How do you find healing from that? As you go to this verse and you say you cast it because he cares. Because he cares, he wants it. And so this week I was talking to a Boy Scout group, and I was talking about my relationship with God, and I got invited to talk about that. And one of the dads says, "Well, can you say anything to God?" Can you say anything to God, or does it have to be formal? Does it have to be a formal letter, or what do you have? You don't want to offend God, and so, I said, well, take a look at the Psalms, and see these people are letting loose. The tongue is loosed. They are saying whatever is on their mind and whatever is on their heart. And you can see that. I mean, this is real stuff. And this is what Hannah did. Cast your anxieties upon him because he cares for you. Because he cares. A good friend lets us vent to them. Lets us let it all out. Blah, blah, and even probably say some stuff we really shouldn't have said. But they're gonna keep that. So that's a safe place with them because they care for you. They're saying, "Come on, bring your stuff. Let's let it all out." And so that's healing. That's a great step in healing. Is whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're stuck in, let it all out. Cast it upon the Lord. Let him hear it. Hannah was letting it out so much there at the temple that night that Eli, the priest, thought she was wasted. Okay? He said, "You're drunk, lady." And, she said, "I'm not drunk. I'm letting it out. I'm casting it out." And so he said, well, bless you then. But that's how much she was doing it. She was weeping. She was crying out to the Lord. And that is a healing, cathartic thing to do. So that's one of the steps. And then the second step is dedicate to the Lord. And so as she was crying out to the Lord, and then she does this. This is 1 Samuel 1:11. And she made a vow saying, "O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." So that's the Nazarite. She's declaring him a Nazarite, set apart. And it sounds like one of these bargain prayers, doesn't it? It sounds like the good old quid pro quo prayer where we say, "God, I'll do this if you do this." We set up, a nice little arrangement. And, God, of course, can see right through those. Those don't work. But I really think in this case, I really think what she was doing is she was putting her issue before the Lord. She was really casting it. She was saying, "God, this is my issue. And you know what? I'm going to give it to you. In fact, even if you provide the answer for what I'm saying, I'm giving that to you. I am truly casting, giving, dedicating this issue to you." And so that's what she was doing. She was dedicating it. And this is healing as well. When we dedicate our issue to God, this is what we're doing when we're praying. Really, this is what we're supposed to do. We're learning this at our house as we pray before dinner, and Mary Reed prays to get the best part in the play, and then Noah prays that his soccer team and the Seattle Seahawks will win. Okay, and it's Super Bowl Sunday, so Noah might actually lift a few of those up. It worked against the Green Bay Packers, so we really did. We saw him. He was down on his knees like this in front of the television. And it worked. I mean, there was miracles happening on the. But what we try to teach them is, when you pray for these things, what you're doing is you're handing them over. You're dedicating them to the Lord. You're giving it to the Lord. So you can go ahead. You can ask for what you wish, But you realize that when you're praying it to him, when you're lifting it to him, you're giving it away to do with what he wishes to do. You're dedicating it. Here's my issue. I'm dedicating it to the Lord. And so that's what's healing. And God knows if we've truly given it away or not, doesn't he? And one line in Hannah's song is 1 Samuel 2:3, "For the Lord is a God who knows, and by him deeds are weighed." The Lord is a God who knows. He knows our hearts. He knows. He's extremely patient, isn't he? He will wait until we've given it up, till that moment when we've truly dedicated it to him. He just will wait and wait and wait, and then we'll find the answer. And it may or may not be what we wanted or expected, of course. But he seems to have that knack of knowing that in our heart, did we really give this to him or not? Have we truly dedicated this to him? Truly in our heart, he knows. And that's the lesson that Israel needed. They're called to be holy. They're called to be separate. They needed to stop trying to be like the others and dedicate themselves to the Lord. This is the message to Israel. No, you need to dedicate yourselves to the Lord, not dedicate yourselves to some human king or trying to be like everyone else. You need to dedicate yourself to the Lord. And this is another line in Hannah's song. This is verse 2. "There is none holy like the Lord. There is none besides you. There is no rock like our God." And so you see this is in Solid Rock. Lonnie and gang does such a good job of looking at the scriptures and saying, what songs can we pull out, as you noticed already. And then we're going to sing Solid Rock. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. And so that's what Israel needed to realize. They were leaving the rock and going into the sand. We need to realize that too. There's only one rock. There's only one holy rock that is separate and stronger than the rest of the out there in the world. And as the sand sinks down, there's only one that's going to be the real foundation. The other stuff starts crumbling. And that's where we need to find our strength. And that's where we can be healed. So after praying, then Hannah worshiped. And this is interesting. This is 3, worship before the answer. And so that's what she did. It's interesting. Let's look at 1 Samuel 1:18 and 19. Then she went her way and ate something. This is right after she was just letting it out there at the temple. And Eli say, may your prayer be answered. And then she went on her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord. See, she was over it. Healing was starting to take place. And nothing had changed on the surface, had it? I mean, her rival was still like, hey, you still don't have any kids, girl. Still got you. But here's the secret. The healing doesn't come from the answer. The healing comes from dedicating it. The healing comes from when we give it to God. Then we're healed. Then we're over it. That's when the healing comes. It's not, we think that we're going to pray for this answer, and if God provides this answer, then we're going to be healed. Then we're going to be on the solid rock. No. We're going to pray and give it to God, and as soon as we do, deep down in our heart, and we dedicate it, then we're healed. Then we're standing on the solid rock. Then we're good. Then we're in a healing place. We think that answer is going to heal us. No. It's trusting and dedicating ourselves to God. That's what's going to heal us. And so that's what we see. She was over it. Her face was no longer downcast. She was ready to eat something. She was ready to go be part of the celebration. And then early in the next morning, she went to OCC and she had worship, see? And, Hannah's real issue was not that she didn't have a child. It was that she was comparing herself to the other woman. And now she's realizing she's getting over that. She's starting to find her strength in the Lord. She's finding her self-esteem in the Lord. She's standing on the Lord and saying, this is my strength. I care what he thinks. I don't care what you think anymore. I'm not going to compare myself to you anymore. That's what happens when we realize, when we have that faith and we realize God has a unique plan for me. He made me unique. He has a unique plan for me. Why in the world would I compare myself to someone else? Because God doesn't have the same plan for me. He made me different. Why would I try to be like someone else? Why would I compare? If we think about it, aren't we glad that God has written a special story for each one of us? That's why when I was in the business school and they're like, put your 10-year plan, and then everyone's reads the same, it's like, this stinks, guys. This is boring. Please. Is this what life is? I'm out. Come on. I did put down, I said, whatever God wants is my 10-year plan. All right? Give me an F on that, will you? I mean, He has made us each unique. That's obvious. And He's written a special story for each of us. So why are we taking our stories in a negative way, contrasting them? It's fine to compare and see similarities and be encouraged and all that, and share our life stories together. That's great. But when we get the blues because we're comparing ourselves in a negative way and saying God isn't blessing me, He's blessing someone else more, that is the opposite of healing. That's disease. And so we need to find our strength in Him. And then Hannah did have a son in God's timing, and she named him Samuel, which means God hears. So that everyone who said his name, and it would be totally clear that I prayed and God answered. That's why this child is here. And then she worshiped afterwards. This is step 4. She did not only celebrate the gift of Samuel, she followed through on her oath. She dedicated the baby to God, the child to God for the rest of his life. See, worship is not just music and celebration. Worship is an offering. It's a dedication. A life of worship is not just to be singing all the time and joyful, while that's part of it. It's because you've sacrificed your life. Worship is a sacrifice. We're giving an offering to the Lord, and that's what a life of worship is. It's a life of dedication, and there's lots of joy in it. And we feel like Hannah got robbed. Not really. Hannah got to wean, and she took her time, because you remember her husband's like, let's go, we got to go up there. She's like, no, I'm going to go in a couple years. I'm going to wean him for a while. And she had that special mommy baby son time. I didn't get to see Noah for like 8 months. I'm like, can I hold him? Okay, no, can't get in there. There was this special thing going on, and I've got him now, but I didn't have him then. And then she would go, this is so cute, she would go every year and do what? She would bring him every year a little robe that she made him that was a little bit bigger for that year. So she would go see him. I think that's just too adorable, isn't it? She would bring the little robe. And then Hannah had other kids after that, and poor them, they had to always hear about Samuel, didn't they? Oh, I'm so proud of Samuel. He's over there. But there's so much joy. That's the point. It's not just that we think this offering ourselves. I got to say this to someone this week, just a little seed, as opposed to, I had an old life, I have a new life, and lots of people think that old life was more fun. And the strange thing is the new life is much more fun. That's the fun thing. That's the surprise. This new life I have is better. Surprise. Hannah's name means grace. And that's what grace is. It's a surprise. It's God's intervention into the world. We think the world is working this way. We see it, and it's forever going to work this way. And we're always just going to be oppressed and stuck by it. And then God goes, boom, surprise. And He reverses what happens in the world. That's what grace is. It's a reversal of what we think. We think at the end of our lives God's going to judge us up and down and we don't have a shot. and that's going to be it. And then boom, grace comes, and Jesus says, no, I got this one. He's with me. And we're in the big house together. That's grace. It's a surprise. It's a reversal. And that's what Hannah celebrates here. This is verses 4 through 5. It's a reversal. The bows of the warriors are broken, and those who stumbled are armed with strength. Those who were full hire themselves out for food, but those who were hungry hunger no more. Everything's getting reversed. She who is barren has borne 7 children, but she who has many sons pines away. See, there's a reversal, and it's not to discourage the rich or those who have children, or it's just to say this is a reversal of what's going on. Jesus rejoiced in the reversal. He had sent the disciples out, and they came back, and they were so excited. They were like, we're able to heal people. And then he just rejoiced. You see this in Luke, and he said, oh, Father, I praise you. You have hid this from the wise and revealed it unto little children. Huge reversal. And so that's what, for it is your good pleasure. See, that's what grace is God's pleasure. He loves to reverse the things. We think we're stuck in all this, and then God's grace, boom, does the reversal. And it's a joy for him and a joy for us. And so we celebrate that. And then she starts to celebrate God's strength in her song. This is 6 through 10. The Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and he rises up. He raises up. The Lord sends poverty and wealth. He humbles and exalts. It's all God's strength. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with princes and has them inherit a throne of honor. We're starting to see some elements here of where she's going. For the foundations of the earth are the Lord's. Upon them he has set the world. He will guard the feet of his saints, but the wicked will be silenced in darkness. It is not by strength that one prevails. It is not by strength, their own strength, that one prevails. Those who oppose the Lord will be shattered. He will thunder against them from heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. This is all the Lord's strength. Now look at this. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. This is very similar to Mary's song. You remember? We'll look at that in Advent. See, Hannah's putting the whole picture together in her song. She saw God working in her own life, but then she also saw what God was doing and what he would do through Samuel in the big picture, in the Israel picture about this king. For Samuel, her son, that every year got a new little robe and got bigger and bigger, he was the one who was God's prophet, and he was the one who anointed the first king. The first king was Saul. That was a lesson for Israel in saying, okay, look, this it doesn't work unless you have a heart for me. And then Samuel, was the one who was sent by God to Bethlehem to the boy. Do you have another son? Because this first group, God's saying no to all of them. Yeah, we got this little tiny kid out in the shepherd field. Yeah, bring him. That's the one. God says, there he is. That's him. He's got the heart for me. I'm going to do a reversal. The little kid that no one thinks about, that's the 7th, 8th, 9th child that's out in the fields, that's never going to be anything, I'm going to make him the king. I'm going to make him the pride of Israel, the greatest king that Israel has known until Jesus. And so that's what he does. And so she prophesies to that. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. This is right when she's just pregnant, or maybe right when she's just had Samuel, that she's prophesying these things. She's filled with the Holy Spirit. So she sees the big picture now. And she sees that these lessons that she's learned, the rest of the country needs to learn. She needs to write a song about it. So God can heal in the big picture. He can heal us in our own little personal story as well. And so let's hear one of those. We've got Linda Burling today, and she's going to share with us her healing song.